Hello everyone, my name is Ben Cathro and I am in Loudenvielle after just witnessing an extremely exciting race for the 5th round of the Downhill World Cup Series. There have been a lot of stories this weekend and I am sure you've already heard what happened with the junior race. It was rather dramatic. If you've not heard, go watch the previous Pinkbike video. In this video, we need to talk about the elite race. We had some heavy rain last night, but the track crew were out fixing the track and the access for the safety crews to allow the race to go ahead, which I am very glad about. During semis, we could see the track conditions were looking pretty decent. The dirt looked tacky in the corners with a few greasy spots that did catch some riders out. In the women's semi-final, the British girls were the first to show good speed with Phoebe Gale and Tanni Seagrave, showing that they are used to riding fast when rain is involved. Millie Onset had the first moment that had me twitching in my seat when she landed between ruts on the bottom drop, caved into the bars and then still sent that bottom jump. Super impressive. Nina Hoffman was riding brave and clearly going for the semi-win. She let things slide, but you could see when it was sliding she was a bit tense. In contrast, Valley was super relaxed and comfortable drifting in the slick conditions, which saw her win the semi-final. The men's semi-final had a few spicy moments. Italian racer Loris Rivoli was the first of many to lay it down this weekend. It's hard to tell, but it looks like his right foot clips out, or it wasn't clipped in before the whoop section. His foot comes off the pedal, sets him off balance to the inside of the turn, washes the front and then kisses the ground with a little bit too much passion. I hope he's all good. Antoine Vidal had a funny altercation with a tree mid-run. He slipped on the greasy rocks, ploughed into the tree and kind of chainring stalled on the side of it before quickly pushing off with his foot. It was super sneaky and I loved it. Benoit Coulange winning semis despite a massive mistake in the steep off camber was super impressive and made me excited for finals. Could Benoit finally score a win? Lisa Baumann was one of the first to tackle her race run and she had an aggressive run en route to a podium position. Look at her rail this turn and get on the gas with confidence. You can see the rain, which luckily just drizzled for a few of the women, make things a little bit slick for Lisa. Phoebe Gale backed up her good quali with an excellent race. Despite some costly mistakes, she kept things rolling to the finish for an excellent 4th place for the first year elite. Marine Cabarrou must have been feeling the pressure to perform in front of the home crowd, and perform she did with a brilliant run, including a massive front wheel drift save into the final jump and 3rd place on the day. Tanni Seagrave set some super fast splits on the upper sections of the track, but then washes out in one of the upper berms. You can see she slips the back wheel into the turn, which leans her in a fraction more than intended. The front wheel grinds the inside edge of the rut and there's just nothing she can do to regain balance. But it is rad to see her rolling the dice again and pushing for results. We were all waiting to see if Nina Hoffman could repeat her surprise win from the previous week. She started well with the fastest time of the weekend at split number 2. Towards the bottom of the track, she slipped in that tricky rock section, forcing her wide of a tree. But Valley made the same mistake. A lot of people had errors in here. Let's take a look at why. So let's follow Wyatt down into the next bit. We've got this left-hand berm, heads into the dark trees, funny shadows, but here is where things get a little bit tricky. So if you cast your eyes down to the ground, you will notice some very small round rocks and a line that disappears. If you cast your eyes down to here, you'll notice some very small round rocks and they're very close together, and the line that people are trying to take, which is actually incredibly hard to do, is get your wheels exactly between those 2 rocks. No, it's not a penis, sharp. So if you are off angle or off line by even a millimeter, your tires are going to slip. You're going to be off balance. So if, say, you're here, you're going to slip and then you're going to head off in this direction, which we saw a lot of people do. If you're off a tiny bit to this side, you're going to slip and then head off in this direction, which a lot of people did. The precision needed through here is way, way higher than you'd ever assume, because you're on the brakes and it's wet in here, all the water's been dragged down the track, and these rocks are super slippy. There's even a nice collection next to here for reference. Look at them, they're all round, they're all smooth. They are all extremely slippy. This was a very hard section of track. So that's why they both slipped, but who recovered the best from the mistake? And would it have made a difference? Valley and Nina come into this section, they both slip, they both go offline. Nina gets her leg out, Valley keeps her foot on and she accelerates out of it while Nina gets her foot back in the pedals. Valley is out in front, she's going down these jumps, she is carrying more speed, she's pulling distance on Nina. And they come up to that final jump, she squashes it nicely and off the drop. And at the finish line, it's going to be 1.08, so it wouldn't have meant the win, but it definitely lost Nina some time. In the end, Nina would place second and Valley would finish in first, extending her lead in the series to a considerable margin. In the elite men, the first thing that caught my eye was Antoine Vidal with one of the sketchiest crashes I've ever seen. In that same slippy rock section, he got put offline, he ran wide, and Aaron Gwyn absolutely called it. He clipped his rear triangle on the tree, which jolted the bike, causing him to blow his hand off. What a wild man. Also, shout out to Aaron Gwyn. He absolutely killed it in the booth with some clear, concise and interesting insights all the way through. Got to shout out Kate Edwards for putting on a show as well. That stoppie was sublime and the tuck no-hander had way more extension than you should be able to get on a feature that size. Remy Therion has been a little in the shadows of the giant downhill team, with the Meyer Smith brothers having some standout results and taking all the limelight. Therion has been working away and capitalised on this tech track in front of a home crowd to get back on a World Cup podium in 5th place. The other tricky feature that shouldn't have caused issues was that innocuous left-hand berm. Dante Silva crashed there, Kolb, Bernard Kerr and Danny Hart. Why? Well, there's some sneaky roots right at the end of that braking zone that can slip you if you try and turn in too early. The berm looks like it should hold you, but it's actually got a very narrow sweet spot, and if you're below it at race pace, you're going down. So we're on board with Wyatt coming into this section. You can see conditions are a lot drier than in the race runs, but if we pause things here, we can get a little idea of what's going on. So the main thing that's causing problems are these roots here, which today are absolutely fine, but once they are wet, they can slip your tires. There's also a hole here, which can upset riders' balance. And what's happening is, as they are braking through this line, they are slipping on these roots, and it's making them head slightly more inside around this corner. And the sweet spot for this turn, where you're not going to slide, especially in the wet, is up here. If you're not up here, you're going to wash out. So you can see it's just a narrow difference. So if you end up on that lower line, you're going to have a bad time and you're going to end up landing on your head over here. Ronan Dunn had a nightmare race with a heavy crash to go with some other big slams this weekend. He slipped on the same tricky route that almost took out Valley Hole on her run. He hits the ground and he just keeps sliding because it's so steep in this section. He looked to be okay though and cruised down. Shout out to Oliver Davies for his first ever elite top 10. He's the same age as Jackson Goldstein and Jordan Williams and has been in their shadows for a while. He's beginning to step into the sun and make himself known, which is cool to see. David Ronnie Mac Palazzari is the panic throttle king today. He got bucked on the upper section and nose manualed a good distance, and then on the bottom jumps he was so perfect pre-jumping into the backsides that he generated so much speed that he just went to flat on the third one. It was kind of scary, but I really enjoyed it. Dakota Norton was on a bloody mission. I don't think I've ever seen that many mistakes in a podium run. It was so cool to see him just cracking on. I mean, we can count them. There was 1, low in the off camber, 2, dabbing the right hander, 3, cased the gap and then went low, 4, tucked the front, 5, gap to flat, 6, washed out over the left crest, 7, foot out, couldn't get back in the pedal and then lunged for the line. Second place, and that is his best result of his career so far. Lucas Shaw made a big mistake in the right-hander after the wet straight. Is it just me or is that straight getting wetter? Luca hit the corner and leant back too far, causing him to undercommit to the turn, exit wide and miss some course markers. He wasn't the only one. Finn Isles scrubbed the hip into that wet straight too hard, twisted too much into the scrub, clipped both feet out and then rode that demo like a run bike round some poles. What an absolute hectic finals event this is. I'm guessing Finn was too busy trying to save his own skin to realise he missed some course markers, and I bet he's kicking himself as he could have finished last and still claimed 30 points. But as it stands, he gets a disqualified and no points. We'll see if that matters at the end of the year. Jackson Goldstein pulled the trigger on the big scrub wall gap up top after us waiting all day to see someone do it. and it was so picture perfect smooth. The middle of the run was a bit messy and I was sure he had thrown it away, but he then clawed back so much time at the bottom to get 4th place and another podium. Laurie Greenland had a big return to form this year and is consistently a podium threat. His run was super clean apart from one overcommitted mistake after the bridge, and he finished in 3rd place. Holy crap, Deprella loves a hugie. The man does not do things by halves, and I'm glad he was able to ride away from that one. How the heck did it happen? And why do people keep messing up this bit? Well, let's compare with the semi and see. It's the water. The riders making their way down the hill have carved a line that this water is just flowing down. Rider after rider, it gets further down the hill, making the braking zone into that corner super slick. It's when braking that Deprella gets loose, hits an edge and just blows his hand clean off. It's this water that's contributing to how slippy the next rock section is, and it's also contributing to people crashing on that next corner. Let's have a closer look. So a lot of people were slipping in here, but a lot of people crashed here. Now the reason for that is when the track got wet and the rain got brought down the hill, the line that you had to be on was here. You had to be precise and on that line. But riders were slipping on the rocks in the previous section and some were coming in up here. And that tiny difference was all that was needed to slip on this piece of grassy bank. Because here it's off camber and it's slippy mud. The only support was on that left-hand line. If you weren't on that, you were going to slip, and then down here, there's nothing to hold you. If your back end goes over there, you're going on the ground, and many riders did. So this section, because of the rain and because of the way the track is shaped and it being fresh in the soft dirt, it was so easy to make a mistake and slip in this section. O'Sheen crashed here, Charlie Hatton crashed here, and the man that could have won the race, Benoit Coulange. After winning qualifying, after winning semis, and then being on a run where he was right on pace, he slipped, missed the rut, stepped out the back and hit the deck. Game over for Coulange this week, but there's always next week. In the end, it was Loic Bruni who impressed the most by riding so smooth and clean from top to bottom. The only major mistake was jumping to flat in those bottom jumps. He disproved a lot of people last weekend and this weekend that believed he isn't the strongest in the wet. Bruni, for the first time this year, takes the win and moves into the lead in the overall. This was one of the most exciting races I've seen in a long time. I was on the edge of my seat the whole way through, and I can't wait for the next one. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Let me know your favourite bit in the comments. We'll be back with Pinkbike next week in Ligier. See you then. I'm gonna go to bed now, because it's really late. You wanna go to bed? Yeah? We'll go to bed. Let's go to bed.